圣经宣扬的上帝不是真正的上帝。
The God in the Bible Old Testament is not the genuine greatest creator. Zjefeng. First of all, we have to admit that the Bible is the accomplishment of the Ephraim which loyally records the Jewish history, explains the relationship between the God, devil and human beings to the furthest degree, and gives the direction the human beings should take. The Bible, the Quran, the Buddhist scripture and the Tao Te Ching are the eternal and effective treasures and collections of human wisdom, teaching us how to behave and develop into the higher level of life space. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The first sentence in the Bible did tell the truth. But the things covered by the cassock may not be the holy things, and the people wearing the sacred cassock may not be the abbot. The problem with the Bible is that the God it introduces is not the genuine greatest creator. We have known that the greatest creator has the 8 features. The greatest creator is unique and exclusive, amorphous, neutral, mysterious, impartial, merciful, supremely powerful and intelligent. The wisdom of the greatest creator is revealed through its creation of universe order, designing of life program and knowing of the past and the future. Then, does the God in the Bible have the above-mentioned 8 features? Let's explain this with examples. The betrayal of Adam and Eve. According to the Genesis, Adam and Eve were instigated to eat the fruit on the wisdom tree forbidden by the God in the Bible. Because they have violated the order of the God in the Bible, they were repelled out of the Eden. It indicates that the God in the Bible is A. incompetent, B. improvident, and C. unjust. He is incompetent because he was a loser at the beginning. The first couple of human he created betrayed him. So can we still say it is supremely powerful? Can we still believe in a person who often loses? The Great Flood had killed most of the human beings. What happened to them afterwards? They still wouldn't listen to his words. The Moses 10 Commandments are actually the directives of the God in the Bible. Can you tell me how many of them are obeyed by the human being? Actually, not even one. The God in the Bible seemed to know nothing about how to control the human beings. The only measure it takes is to voice warnings and threats against the human beings. Thousands of years has passed, the human beings remain the same. Is there no means to control the human beings? Or is there some other force constraining this Almighty God? If this is the case, is this God not sole or exclusive? For thousands of years, the human beings have been violating His order. What is He waiting for? The God in the Bible is improvident because He didn't know that Adam and Eve were going to betray Him, or the development trend of what He had created. Is this God, who is not able to predict the future or the past, still reliable? If the Earth is going to get out of the solar system and this God knows nothing about it, how can He save the human beings? How can this God administer the deities, Buddha, celestial beings and devils when He found it difficult to control the human beings? How can He manage the spacious universe? The God in the Bible is unjust because it cannot tell wrong from the right and because it is unreasonable. Why would Adam and Eve betray the God in the Bible? There are 3 major reasons. First, the genetic structure of Adam and Eve had faults or was imperfect. The life created by this God was now its own constraint. This angered the God very much. It is just like the house built by an architect who put every efforts was fallen and hit his own feet. Is the house or the architect that should be blamed? The second reason they betrayed is that they were instigated and seduced by the snake. Adam and Eve are humans while behind the snake was the devil Satan. The energy and wisdom of human beings can't match those of the devil. This God didn't punish the devil Satan. Instead, it imposed inflictions on Adam and Eve and drove them out of Eden. Is it fair? If a rapist raped an 8-year-old girl, would it be fair to blame the girl for her sexual organ and weakness instead of bringing justice to the rapist? The third reason of betrayal, which is also the most important one, is the damned wisdom tree that can tell the good and evil. Who has planted it in the Eden and why? It's just like putting a poisonous sweet on the dinner table for the kids. Or it's like playing the porn video for the young girls while teaching them to retain their innocence. Would a moral person do such a thing? Isn't this person who planted the wisdom tree in the Eden has caused the betrayal of Adam and Eve? Besides, does this God who had created Adam and Eve has other measures to take rather than driving Adam and Eve out of the Eden? Is it fair not to give them a second chance simply because they have made only one mistake? Does one mistake justify their lifelong sins? Jesus came to the mortal world to atone for the human being's sins. According to the Bible, all the people have their original sin. Where does the original sin come from? Actually, they are inherited from Adam and Eve, the ancestors of human beings, whose sins were formed because they had eaten the fruit on the damned wisdom tree. When we are born, we have that original sin inherited from Adam and Eve. The cross on our back was much too heavy. According to this logic, the son of a thief is always a thief, the son of a criminal is always a criminal, and the son of an emperor is always an emperor. That's why in ancient China, in the feudal period in particular, if a man committed crime, all his family members would be sentenced to death. Or if a man attained the Tao, even his pets ascended to heaven. This also explains why the thrones can only be passed on to the next generations of royal families. This is because it complies with the logic in the Bible. If somebody has sins, the God in the Bible and the Satan sign first. Is it humanitarian to inflict on billions of humans throughout the history simply because of the wrongdoings of Adam and Eve? Why not executing Adam and Eve and creating a new pair of humans at the time? Is creating a new couple so difficult for the God in the Bible? All the people are born with sins. This is why each of us comes to the mortal world to endure the sufferings. But the sins are not inherited from our ancestors. They are made by our slaves in the previous cycle of life. If we don't have sins, we would all have become Buddha or celestial beings. 10 Plagues of Egypt. According to the Exodus, when Moses and Aaron, in the capacity of the God in the Bible, asked the Egyptian Pharaoh to let the Israelis leave Egypt, they were refused. Consequently, the God in the Bible imposed 10 plagues on Egypt. 1. Plague of blood. The water of the Nile will be changed into blood. The fish in the Nile will die, and the river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink its water. 2. Plague of frogs. The Nile will teem with frogs. They will come up into your palace and your bedroom and onto your bed, into the houses of your officials and on your people, and into your ovens and kneading troughs. The frogs will go up on you and your people and all your officials. 3. Plague of lice. The dust of the ground became lice, lice came upon men and animals. All the dust throughout the land of Egypt became lice. 4. Plague of flies. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of flies, and even the ground where they are. 5. Plague of livestock death. The 5th plague of Egypt was an epidemic disease which exterminated the Egyptian livestock, that is, horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep and goats. 6. Plague of boils. The 6th plague of Egypt was skin. The skin was a kind of skin disease, usually translated as boils. 7. Plague of hail. The 7th plague of Egypt was a destructive storm. 8. Plague of locusts. Locusts will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields. 9. Plague of darkness. Total darkness covered all Egypt for 3 days. 10. Death of the firstborn. The 10th and final plague of Egypt was the death of all firstborn in Egypt. No one escaped, from the lowest servant to Pharaoh's own firstborn son, including firstborn of livestock. It is understandable that the God punished Egypt because Egyptian Pharaoh wouldn't obey his order. However, it was unreasonable and went too far to kill the firstborn of all humans and animals in Egypt. You can punish the Egyptian Pharaoh for his disobedience. Why inflicting on the common people? Even worse, the God would kill the kids of the girl slaves working as donkeys in the lowest rank. Can we still say the God behaving like this merciful? It was behaving without humanitarianism, just like a devil. Even more abominable, the Pharaoh of Egypt wouldn't let the Israelis leave mainly because the God had hardened the Pharaoh's heart. Before the 10 plagues came, the God in the Bible had done something. According to 7:3 in the Exodus, Jehovah told Moses, "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt." It means the God in the Bible had prepared a trap for the Egyptians, trying to find an excuse for the following plagues. In Exodus 8 verse 19, Then the magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them as the Lord had said. In Exodus 9 verse 35, "And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, neither would he let the children of Israel go, as the Lord had spoken by Moses." In Exodus 10 verse 20, "But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go." In Exodus 10 verse 27, "But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go." In Exodus 11 verse 10, "And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land." It was the God in the Bible who let the Israelis leave Egypt. But it was the same God who had hardened the Pharaoh's heart and sparked the conflicts so that the Israelis couldn't leave Egypt easily. So what the God in the Bible was doing? It was encouraging the people to revolt while telling the authorities about the revolt and encouraging the government to oppress them mercilessly. Isn't such a person a schemer and two-faced? So is this the image of the greatest creator? The Israelis are the people of the covenant. The Bible has the Old Testament and the New Testament. The part telling what happened before Jesus was born was called the Old Testament, and the part telling things after Jesus was born was the New Testament. The Testament actually means agreement, covenant, and contract. The whole Bible is the agreement, covenant, and contract between the Israelis and the greatest creator. So here is a paradox. There are over 3,000 nations in the world, and why the God has established the testament with the Israelis? Does this mean the other nations are not the subjects of the God? If they are, why has the God only established the testament with the Israelis while neglecting all the other nations? If they are not, what's the origin of all the other nations? Are Adam and Eve only the ancestors of Israelis and not the other nations? The Israelis are created by the God. Does it mean the other nations are created by the devil? There are 1,656 years between the Genesis and the Great Flood. There are 857 years between the Great Flood and the Exodus. There are 396 years between the Exodus and the founding of the Israeli state. There are 510 years between the founding of the Israeli state and their captive to Babylon. There are 152 years between their imprisonment in Babylon and the re-establishment of Jerusalem. There are 450 years between the rebuilding of Jerusalem and the birth of Jesus. There are 2003 years between the birth of Jesus and today. So according to the Bible, the history of human beings is about 6,376 years. According to the Bible, there were only 8 people survived the Great Flood on the earth. They were the couple of Noah, their 3 sons and their wives. It means that 4,700 years ago, there was no one else living on the earth except for the Noah family. But this has brought some other questions. First, where do the American Indians come from? According to the theory of continental drift, America drifted away from the other continents. But it couldn't happen within 4,700 years of time. Then how the Noah family reached America from the Middle East? After the Great Flood, there were only 8 members in Noah family. It was impossible for them to get dispersed. Noah couldn't let one of his sons and his wife to cross the freezing Siberia and the Bering Strait to get to America. Second, where did the African blacks come from? From the perspective of genetics, the blacks, yellows, and whites have their separate ancestors. A couple of pure whites couldn't generate the blacks and yellows. Even the evolvement couldn't produce the blacks and yellows in 3,700 years of time. Besides, according to Darwin's evolutionary theory, the survival of the fittest, could the Israelis able to write the Bible evolve into the African blacks? The blacks are not the matches of Israelis in the intelligence, no matter how we exaggerate their abilities. Now let's come to the Chinese nation. The first Chinese king was born about 4,600 years ago. The story of Dayu's flood control happened about 4,200 years ago. It was impossible for the future generations of Noah to come to mainland China 100 years after the Great Flood. Even if they did it, how could they produce so many people who followed Dayu to control the flood? Where does the Chinese nation come from? Are the flood controlled by Dayu or just the Great Flood? From the perspective of the Bible, the biological evolutionary theory could never be accepted. But once we accepted the theory, it would deny the theory that the God created the human beings. But if we denied the evolutionary theory, there was no way to explain the origin of the blacks and yellows, and we can't say Adam and Eve are the common ancestors of all human beings. The story of Cain. The first child of Adam and Eve after they were driven out of the Eden was Cain, followed by Abel. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. Out of jealousy Cain killed his brother Abel. We want to ask the God in the Bible some questions. Why do you favor the offerings of Abel instead of those of Cain? Is Cain killing his brother Abel not your fault? If you had never favored one of them, how could it arouse the jealousy of Cain? Why the people created by you had so many troubles? Adam and Eve wouldn't follow your orders and their kids killed each other. As the God, you don't have the ability to solve these problems? Or is it what you have designed? Cain was a murderer and deserved the punishment. But you told Cain, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. So what kind of the justice standard is it? It is hardly understandable not to levy the punishment on the criminal, but it is even more understandable to have revenge of sevenfold on those who would punish the criminal. Is it protecting the criminal? That's why the few thousand years of human history were full of blood, violence, and crime. The God in the Bible has been protecting the criminals. Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. Because Cain is a criminal, we can fully understand it as, therefore whosoever slayeth the criminal, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. We can conclude we had better become criminals because the criminals are protected and the good men are not. The good men have the risk of being revenged sevenfold. The prophet and the dream. In the Bible, there are a large number of prophets and dreams. The prophets are the representatives of the God in the mortal world. They have unimaginable wisdom and power, which sink the average people with average wisdom into the mist. If someone says, I am a prophet, should we believe him or not? If we don't, we are standing against the God. If we do, how can we know the prophet is a fake or not? Now let's talk about the dreams. There are many dreams and dream analysis in the Bible, in particular in the Revelation. Of course, those who can analyze the dreams are all prophets, but they have also brought a lot of puzzles. First, has the prophet had the dream at all? No one could see his dream and he could well compose some dreams and cheat us. If he really had the dream, was his analysis correct? Or was he analyzing the dream on the reverse aspect? I want to ask the God in the Bible, in the Old Testament you used to talk directly with the human beings. Then why you stopped doing so later? Are the Adam and Eve on other planets also disobeying your orders? Why would you warn the human beings in the form of dreams? Why not tell us the truth directly? Don't you have the ability to do so? Don't you have time? Don't you have some secret sorrow? I can give many other examples to state that the God in the Bible does not have the features of being unique and exclusive, amorphous, neutral, mysterious, impartial, supremely powerful, merciful, and wise as genuine greatest creator has. So we can affirm that the God in the Bible is not the genuine greatest creator.
翻译上帝的话语
Interpretation of the words of the greatest creator. Jiefeng. The greatest creator has never talked with human beings directly. The word of the greatest creator is hidden in the laws of nature. In a word, the word of the greatest creator is the Tao. To be specific, the greatest creator's speeches are the equations in physics, the molecular formula in chemistry, the formula in math, the structural formula in biology, and the cause-effect formula in life science. So only the great physicists, chemists, mathematicians, biologists, and doctors can interpret the greatest creator's speeches. The works such as Tao Te Ching, the Yellow Emperor's Book of Internal Medicine, and the Book of Supreme Senses are the interpretation of the greatest creator's speeches in the social life science. In human society, the successful people in all sectors have implemented the speeches of the greatest creator unintentionally because they have followed the movement laws of matters at the right time and the right place, the laws are the greatest creator's speeches. And the losers are those who have gone against the laws. The wealthy people, either in physical or mental aspect, are those who are willing to follow the laws. We can say they have understood the greatest creator's speeches. Those who are poor in physical or mental aspect have ignored the existence of the greatest creator and misunderstood the speeches. All those who are modest enough to receive the education can understand the greatest creator's words. Those who are stubborn, impatient, inflexible, or who wouldn't stay quiet to think, would violate the words. They are not reasonable or worthy of being saved. They are born to suffer. It needs the wisdom to interpret the greatest creator's words. Moreover, it needs thinking, understanding, peaceful mind, complete spiritual state, reverence to the greatest creator, respecting to Buddha and God, love for nature, life, and human beings. I would try to interpret some of the words of the greatest creator, earnestly request those learned and great recluses to point out my mistakes so that I can be corrected. I am the greatest creator, the supreme master of the universe, the leader of all gods, the cradle of life, the birthplace of wisdom, the original force of the universe, the energy center of the supermaterial world, the stream in the desert and the beacon in the mist. I am almighty, ubiquitous, impeccable, and perceptive. I have prepared the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and Elysium world for those who revering me. The worlds are perfect where you don't have to worry about shelter, food, necessities, illness, old age, death, or disasters. You can enjoy the life completely. So you should take my path. I have also prepared the lower world for those who ignore me, abuse me, desecrate me, or betray me. In the lower worlds, which include the hell, frozen layer, and flaming layer, you will be tortured and punished for what you have done. So you should give up evil and return to good, begging me to forgive your sins. Your life is short, so you can't afford to waste your valuable life on some meaningless things. You should give priority to the pursuit me. I will show up when you pursue me. You knock on my door, and I will open it for you. Everything you have seen is just the flash in the pan. The truth is hidden on the other side of what you have seen, and you have to seek the truth on your own. Everything you possess in the mortal world will never bring you the genuine happiness or pleasure. The more you possess in the mortal world, the more distress you will sink into. You should pursue wisdom because only wisdom can grant you with happiness and pleasure. I will allow the people with wisdom to the senior life space. You shouldn't make the human life much too complicated. You should pursue the simple and fruitful life that I prefer, those common people with wisdom, not the people with authorities, power, or fame. You should never limit your thinking within the three-dimensional space because that will blind you against other spaces. Don't deny the existence of other spaces simply because you can't see them, just like you can never deny the existence of particles just because you can't see them. You should stay away from the evil conducts. Those who steal, rob, cheat, blackmail, rape, murder, or corrupt will never have the bright future. Don't be jealous, slandering, arrogant, conceited, complaining, or crafty because these are the virus which will swallow your spiritual nature. You shouldn't compare yourself with others. Behave yourself and take your own path. Don't follow the fashions or trend and don't lose the right path. You should be modest enough to learn from the wise people, and brave enough to listen to their instructions and admit your ignorance. Born into the mortal world, you are destined to be the human beings. So don't pursue super performance, or becoming the Buddha or God. You should take the path of being a human. Your next life cycle is determined by your virtues as a human. I hate those who are performing weirdly. The earth is the home to all human beings. You should love every tree and bush, and every hill and every stream in the earth. Those who damage the earth will lose their homes. Those who care for the earth will enter the beautiful homes. I will treat you the same way you treat me. I have never created that many conflicting religions in the mortal world. I have just created the laws for the universe and life. The religions are created by the humans on your own. Don't build temples or churches for me. The entire universe is where I stay. Don't sacrifice cattle or sheep to me. I am the greatest creator and I don't eat those things. You should revere me with your heart. Don't try to cheat me with those superficial forms because I can sense it. I hate those who look loyal and scorn me in the heart. You should show filial piety to the elderly because you are on the way to become elderly. You should care for the kids because you are the kids in my eyes. I will not care for those who don't care for the kids. You should respect the teachers and receive the education modestly. Otherwise, your soul will be covered by ignorance, and your life will be spent in darkness. You should obey the laws and regulations and respect your kings and emperors. The laws are everywhere in the universe and you shouldn't be outlaws. The right of being a human is granted by me. You should retain the right and fight against those who try to deprive you of the right. You should behave yourself as humans and never act as fawning as a dog. You help yourselves and I will help you. You give up and I will forsake you. The population on the earth is much too large. You must learn to control the population and can't reproduce freely like animals. Otherwise, I will inflict the plagues on you. This is my warning and be serious with it. Don't blame me for being cruel. You should seek me actively and take my path. If you neglect my existence and act reckless as you wish, the plagues will be imposed on you at any time. Hold my hands firmly. Look forward to the corrections from those who have understood the greatest creator. You will see clear paradise scenes. Stay and study in life genuine will a new life begin. Faraway mountains are fresh and green. Take a broad view and you will see.
给东海一消讲上帝
Preaching the greatest creator to Donghai Yixiao. Jiefeng. The Confucianists revere the heaven, calling it as the heaven, the imperial heaven, or the elderly heaven lord. They admit the existence of the power beyond humans and the existence of God. Such recognition is not prompted by the sudden impulse or the education from a certain master. Instead, it comes from the life and life experience of billions of people. We can go to a few elderly people above 60 years old and ask them, "Do you believe such heaven Lord above everything?" I am sure at least half of them will admit the existence of the heaven Lord. This heaven, imperial heaven, or elderly heaven Lord, is the greatest creator. If you observe the performance of a CNC machine, what feeling do you have? You will find it working accurately and conscientiously. Now, do you believe it is the natural attribute of the machines, or believe someone behind is operating this machine? Well, I will give you an example. The honeycomb is a hexagonal cylinder, the bottom of which are 3 rhombuses of the same size with the obtuse angle at 109.028 foot, and the acute angle at 70.032. So why do they have such angles? According to the calculations by the scientists, only such angles can save the materials to the largest degree. Now I want to ask, is it because the bees are clever or because some force behind the bees is manipulating them, just like someone behind the CNC machine is operating them? I have listed dozens of the examples in the chapter of the greatest creator. With these facts, would you still deny the existence of the greatest creator? Everything has its origin. And where is the origin? All things are moving. And where is the driving force? Everything has psychic energy. And where is the psychic energy? Everything exists for a purpose. And what is the ultimate purpose? Life has different levels. What is the highest level of life? Can you say the highest level of life is Donghai Yixiao, the East Sea Owl? Or, the movement laws of universe are made by the East Sea Owl? All things sense each and there is a terminal for the sensing. Where is this terminal? Can you say, all the computers in the world are connected to the internet, and the terminal is on the computer of the East Sea Owl? Do you still want to deny the greatest creator? Of course you can say everything is formed naturally. Then can you explain to us what is called naturally, and how it produces the things and their movement procedures in the universe? You have to reveal the whole process in strict logics. You can't just raise your head and say, "It is natural. I just don't admit the existence of the greatest creator. I want to see what you can do with me." All the people in this world believing in the greatest creator are those with spiritual nature, perception and wisdom. All those who don't are troublemaking people. The greatest creator does not belong to anyone. It is wrong to think that the greatest creator should help whoever believing in him. The greatest creator is just like the sun, shining impartially on everyone in the mortal world. Who gets more sunshine is determined by their habits and preference. Whether you love sunshine or not is your own choice, not the greatest creator. The greatest creator has 8 features. It is sole and only, amorphous, neutral, mysterious, impartial, merciful, supremely powerful, and wise. I have said the God in the Old Testament is not the genuine greatest creator because the God in the Old Testament does not have 8 features. I have also said the Krishna advocated by the Kirtan and the Bhakti movement is not the genuine greatest creator because he has 16,108 wives. The genuine greatest creator is neutral or unisex, neither male nor female. Any statement or practice personalizing the greatest creator is wrong. Why? I will not give further explanation. You can make your own judgment. Why have some people resisted the greatest creator believed by the Life Chanyuan? The reason is that when the genuine greatest creator shows up, the fakes will find no place to hide. They have no choice other than slandering it. After all, I do not expect you to believe in the greatest creator overnight. But I do hope you are not hurried to deny it. Instead, you should spend your whole life proving it. So long as you can exclaim, I will not regret to die in the evening if I learned in the morning.